Furthermore, to give me a directions that the adjudicator was saying that colder time of year should have been on a trip to his dad window, so clearly setting aside some margin to collect myself Steve Harvey's nurturing approach is making news for every one of some unacceptable reasons as his natural child Wynton. Just uncovered his horrendous encounters, as per Wynton, he had a troublesome and sincerely upsetting youth feeling deserted and dismissed by his own popular dad. This understanding into Steve Harvey's nurturing style has caused a whirlwind of interest and gossip with individuals, considering how a person celebrated for his appeal in mind could have such a clouded side with regards to his own organic children. In all honesty, Harvey's family is loaded with dim mysteries. Many individuals feel Steve is the best dad ever and the best father, yet insiders say the truth in secret. Uncovers and alternate picture reports proliferate that Steve's nurturing style is far away from wonderful, where he appears to do partiality and disregard others genuinely, and to be straightforward, no one merits that in spite of these difficulties, Wynton has figured out how to manufacture his own way and make progress for himself with a sprouting profession as a skilled photographic artist and design model. Wynton Harvey has cut out a specialty for himself in media outlets, inspiring crowds with his extraordinary work and enchanting character. Yet that doesn't mean he isn't likewise confronting the result of his dad being a douche. When he was only a teen, Wynton Harvey is Steve's child from his second spouse, Mary Lee Harvey. And on the off chance that you had barely any familiarity with the couple's very own difficulties and separation particulars, it's nothing unexpected that Wynton had a grieved history. So in 1989, Mary Lee Harvey and Steve met at a shopping center in Arlington, Texas, where she was functioning as a beauty care products craftsman. Anyway, the couple before long got hitched in 1996. They were together for about 10 years, during which she upheld up and unobtrusively upheld him to make Steve's vocation prosper. Anyway, different issues, for example, deceiving in a poisonous climate, made their marriage bomb. There were additionally reports that Steve quit giving opportunity to Mary Lee, as he was in the middle of engaging every other person subsequent to being separated from Steve, needed to keep up with his picture. So he referenced it was nothing unstable, or about any other person included, or any such thing. We're still companions. And all I actually love her anyway. Mary Lee would have rather not kept down and obliterating and uncovering Steve and his activities towards her and her child Wynton, and that is where things took a go. Wynton, who saw such a huge amount with his eyes, and always was unable to have a decent dad-child relationship, surely has a ton to stand up to Steve about. So when Steve figured he could simply leave Mary Lee after such countless penances she had made for him, he was very mixed up. Essentially, when Steve Harvey was battling in his calling and was penniless, Mary Lee ventured forward and spent her $250,000 reserve funds on him to assist him with kicking start his parody club. So after the couple was hitched a year after the fact, they invited a child kid named Wynton. And this occurred before the show started. Many individuals were amazed when Mary Lee Harvey and Steve Harvey chose to break their 17-year marriage in 2005. And the explanation will stun you too. Well, unfortunate, Mary Lee didn't merit being undermined. There have been hypotheses that he had a secret paramour hiding in the shadows during his union with Mary Lee, which at last prompted their terrible separation. As per bits of hearsay, his side undertaking with Marjorie had a significant influence in Steve's life, catching his heart and baiting him away from his marriage promises. Notwithstanding the guardianship fight that resulted after their separation, she started making YouTube recordings to accumulate more allies in the tapes. Mary Lee Harvey asserted that other than being double-crossing Steve Harvey, was likewise truly and intellectually oppressive, that doesn't address what our identity is, assuming that I was irate. The ideal opportunity for me to strike out would have been doing the genuine window of the separation, so clearly getting some margin to collect myself, to get better, to get recuperated, and manage the higher perspective of this. And it isn't two individuals having an exceptionally open contention. After these proclamations turned into the straw that broke the camel's back for him, Steve Harvey went to court to document a claim to end the slander she was currently spreading. He said that they were unjustifiable on the grounds that there was no confirmation to back up her declarations. Yet that didn't prevent Mary Lee from uncovering Steve. This separation dramatization stood out as truly newsworthy, as well as turned into a hotly debated issue. To discuss, individuals scrutinized Steve Harvey for not thinking often about his 8-year-old Wynton and establishing an unfriendly climate. What stunned the world was that Steve grabbed everything away from Mary Lee, which was very unreasonable. Mary additionally guaranteed that following their separation, Steve strongly took her child Wynton and deserted her. When she offered public expressions about the separation, she disregarded the court's guidelines. Due to course, she was enraged, and everyone could see that Steve had taken everything, including her way of life cash. And surprisingly, her cherished child directions that the appointed authority was saying that colder time of year should have been on a trip to his dad. And I was super dazed when you realize that the law is being betrayed you. In May 2019, Broderick, Steve's most seasoned child, focused on their relationship on his dad's discussion program. Steve had my father full-time in my life until I was 16. Assuming that is unfortunate, you ought to hear what his other natural kids needed to say, which Steve recognized while addressing individuals, adding years after the fact, "They told me, Father, we didn't have the foggiest idea about why you left us. However, we know now you needed to go. You didn't simply have a place with us. You have a place with the world," Steve shared, adding, "That was close to home for me." While Steve strongly gives his perspectives on growing great connections and family binds, cynics question his daringness to offer guidance when his very own life hopes to be stressed. Murmurs regarding Steve's disturbed association with his organic youngsters circle, causing a stir and raising some questions about his authenticity. As a family, fellow pundits guarantee that being a good example requires something other than words, and Steve's tempestuous collaborations with his own youngsters seem to go against the image he provides for the general population. In the perplexing circumstance of Steve Harvey's family associations, an emotional differentiation emerges between the treatment of his significant other Marjorie and her kids, eminently the acclaimed Lori Harvey, and his appearing alienation from his organic kids. While Marjorie and her kids thrive at the center of attention, relaxing in the riches and consideration showered on them, Steve's close family are left to explore a reality where they feel like outsiders. The show heightened when Steve Harvey was out there assuming the part of hero and took care of Wynton with the expectation that he would have things arranged and a superior dad-child relationship. Yet by and by, Steve Harvey stood out as truly newsworthy for each off-base explanation. And this time, far more terrible, he was blamed for genuinely mishandling Wynton. Steve Harvey was viewed as not at legitimate fault for the kid misuse allegations evened out against him. The charges were made by his ex Mary Harvey and their child Wynton Harvey. As per, Mary beat down Wynton when he was 11. As per a police grievance, Steve became rankled subsequent to getting a call from Wynton's school in regards to his child lying about completing his homework. Wynton said Steve thumped him with a belt, then an oar load up, causing wounds on his butt, cheek, thigh, and legs. The specialist who analyzed him even called the police to illuminate them about this circumstance. Later, it was likewise uncovered that he experienced issues peeing for a few days following the maltreatment. This made Mary Lee exceptionally concerned and got one more motivation to despise Steve. Mary Lee even prosecuted things so her child could get equity and Steve could have to deal with penalties. Yet she was not areas of strength for that time, and Steve, who is now a particularly popular and respectable individual, made Mary seem as though some creep attempting to fault him. Steve made this all evaporate like it was nothing, and no examination occurred. rather than Steve, who ought to have been in the slammer for all the unfairness and misuse. It was unfortunate Mary, who confronted the sentence as the separation case, was under seal and gag request. Mary Lee was detained for 30 days and guaranteed she needed to give her side of the story. "I disregarded no court orders," said Mary Lee. "This is about you shouldn't talk anyone about your separation. That is what they're talking about." I'm like, this is America. Individuals accepted that it was Steve who turned into the wall among Wynton. And Mary Lee's exquisite holding as Mary Lee's hatred overruns her comments. She faults Steve, blaming him for going about as a mannequin expert and building this obstruction among her and their child. She even turned out to be so shattered when she was losing the guardianship case that she said consistently, "I awaken Wynton is at the forefront of my thoughts the entire day consistently. I cry over the course of the day since I feel like someone came to in and hauled Wynton out of me. That is the way I feel since we were extremely close. The crowd is enchanted by Steve Harvey's amazing person as the camera's job, and he effectively conveys his spellbinding appeal. Yet underneath the polished outside hides a set of experiences loaded with shadows and secrets. It's difficult to accept that a longing for equity is gotten from Mary Lee's profound injuries anyway. It seems to be the influence of cash seems to have covered the charges. However, do you figure one day Steve will lament playing an antagonist in this show?